Silence. Silence.
Quiet on set.
Okay, leave this here. It's good. It's like cool scenery. Try it again. All right, take two. Ready? Okay. Sorry.
Do I not talk while you're doing this, or?
No, don't say anything, please.
Okay.
All right, what's cracking, fools? You know who it is. Big Bad Sentrock back at it again, here with another episode with the very special guest, Yvette Mayorga.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited about this conversation because I just have a lot of questions for you. Or really, I'm just very curious about a lot of things. And I'm glad you made time to come today. I think, you have a lot you want to get off your chest, I'm sure. You do?
I think so.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this. So if you don't mind, give our guests, not our guests, our audience a little like intro. You could just do a little like what you do real briefly, and then we could get into it and just start a conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here too. So I'm Yvette Mayorga. I'm an artist, multidisciplinary artist, mostly doing work and installation, but really, I would say across lots of different medias.
Yeah. And so the first time we met, or at least the first time we kind of started working together, I don't know if you remember, it was that was it the Reebok show?
I think it was the Reebok show.
At least we started like to interact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was cool. But the first time, at least for me, that I was like, oh my God, this artist is on another level, is when you did the Chicago Expo at Navy Pier, when you did the installation.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is so sick. Like, who is this? Like, I knew who you were, but I was like, yo, like, who is this? Like, she's killing it right now.
It was me.
Yeah, it was you. So, for the audience, if you don't mind giving us a little like how that came about and what your thought process was. And this was what, maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, this was in 2017. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Expo Chicago was like a really kind of one of a kind experience because I was doing a residency at the Chicago Artists Coalition from 2016 to 2017. And then as part of the residency, there was like a juried exhibition, which was basically a curator coming into the Chicago Artists Coalition, having studio visits with all the 8 residents and then choosing one person to have a solo show at Expo, which is how I got that. Yeah.
That's dope.
Which was really cool. And I think like really surprising for me too when we had studio visits with the curator, because I wasn't sure what sort of like aesthetic like she was into, or what she was thinking for Expo. So when I found out that it was me, I was actually kind of like surprised in a way. Yeah. And then I really took it as, this is like my first like big installation coming out of grad school, like because I did undergrad 4 years and then I came straight here for grad school for 2 years and then I did the residency. So I felt like this is a space where I want to be like really experimental. It's an art fair, so I also felt like being kind of naive to the idea of an art fair helped me because I just like went in wanting to make like a really immersive installation about, things that I was like thinking about at the time and bringing in real food, like, piping onto objects with real food and having painting, video, sculpture. But now looking back, I think if maybe I would have had like more of an idea of what you're supposed to show at art fairs, like to sell, I think it would have been a little bit like limiting to me.
If you would have, that's, I think sometimes as creative, that's our best like weapon is like our naiveness sometimes. Because like once you know all the rules, or once you
Yeah.
feel like you know how you're supposed to act, then that changes everything for you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got to do it this way.
Definitely.
And then I think that's some of the best like stuff that we do is like when we just do it because we feel it. Like this is what I feel like I want to do.
Yeah.
But no preconceived like notion of what it should be.
Yeah, because that's like how we start. You
Yeah.
know, I think like even before, or I would say like, yeah, you're in college and,
Yeah.
you know, you're thinking about, you know, having like these ideas that you're excited about and putting them out like on paper, canvas, and you're not really like thinking about all the other things that come with being an artist that
Right.
when you leave school, you start having to, you know, maybe function as a business because you
Right.
have to pay for like supplies and studio and all these other things that I think can sometimes get in the way. But it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, you also sort of have to know, which I feel like Expo kind of like opened my eyes, I think, to this idea of like the art market and what it's like and how kind of like ugly it can be too. But I think it was really important to know, you know, to not be naive to that so that you can best protect yourself and your work
Yeah.
and also use it like as a weapon.
So for the expo, so you never went to an expo before?
I had been before like a couple years, you know,
Yeah.
maybe like 4 or 5 years in a
Yeah.
row. But, you know, like you walk in and you can see the work, but the people that are sitting there are not going to talk to you or don't really
Yeah,
care who you
right.
are. Like they have a set interest, I think, in, you know, collectors. And it wasn't until showing there that I realized that there's like a whole preview night, you know, so like most of the work gets sold
Yeah.
even before it opens to the public.
Right. Interesting. I feel like you're really in the art world. I feel like
So are you?
no, I'm just like I just be trying to do my little thing, you know, paint alleys and sell little stickers and stuff.
I
you know,
mean, me
but
too.
Stop it. All right. So you did Chicago Expo,
Yeah.
and then I feel like from there, correct my ignorance, but I feel like from there, like you just started like snowballing with like the way your work was presented and opportunities and different shows and stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. Cause, you know, I think people were able to maybe see like
I was like, yo, put some respect on my name.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like see like, you know, the potential of like what my installations could look like.
Yeah.
And I should also mention, like, I didn't have money, you know, for Expo. I did like a GoFundMe or Indiegogo. I think that's what it was to fund the
Okay.
installation.
So, but you got accepted to show there, but everything else you had to come out of pocket.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think like, you know, you could apply for grants or you could also do like a fundraiser.
Yeah, and your work at the installation, there was work for sale or no?
There was work for sale.
Okay.
Not all work, but some of the works were for sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that was very good for like I guess were sales good?
I think they were okay.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of the beginning of understanding like, you know, how to price things and just like best practices overall, like to be in that market, but it
Right.
wasn't like record sales or anything like that. And I think it's because people maybe were kind of like, like, who is she? Or, you know,
Right.
like, do we want to invest in her work?
Yeah, I didn't want to ask and be like trying to be in your pocket or anything. I'm just
Yeah.
more curious because how important do you think these expos are like for artists? Like, do you think they're very important? And if so, do you think you learned how to capitalize on other expos? For example, like the Art Basels of the world.
Yeah, I think they're important, you know, because they bring in income for artists, like also curators, artists, just people from, you know, all over the world go to these expos, you know, or to Miami for Art Basel. Like it's kind of like a national audience that's viewing the work. So I feel like that is important, but
Yeah.
you know, like having a booth for yourself as an artist with a nonprofit is not really like the normal thing. It's usually a gallery, a commercial gallery that is paying for these booths and
right.
then, you know, bringing in the artists and then they're taking a cut. So that's more like the standard
Yeah.
way. And I feel like
I feel like now a lot of artists are taking it upon themselves too.
For sure,
They're like,
yeah.
yo, I'm gonna buy I'm gonna put the 10K into buying this booth, and then I'm gonna really invest into it. And then I feel like, sometimes artists do very well, and sometimes artists are like, I was just there for the marketing for it, or because at the end of the day, whatever, because there's great marketing, to put yourself out there. I remember there's been times where I've been like, yo, I'm gonna be at Art Basel, I'm doing this, and people think like I've reached some certain lemons. Like, no, I'm just going, I have one piece and one thing or whatever it is,
Yeah, but like you meet people, and then you don't know like what opportunities that's going to lead to.
Right.
Like maybe there weren't a lot of sales at Expo for me, but I met, curators, I met like other galleries, and then I started to see like the fruits of it maybe a year later, where somebody reached out and were like, I saw your work at Expo, we want to have a show with you. But I think like during that time I was like, I feel like, I don't know, I think it's a normal process as an artist. Like you do something big and then it's like high and then low to get to, and then there's another high. Rhythms, Yeah.
Even if it's not always those rhythms, sometimes life has a way, or even us internally, we have a way of like, all right, I got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And let me just, look inside and what I want to do next.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even know like who's looking at your work or what's coming next, until they reach out and you're like, oh, interesting. Like it came from, this exhibition that I didn't think, maybe for me it was successful, but not as successful as maybe like I imagined. And we're also really hard on ourselves too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like I think just as artists, we're really critical of our own, like our own success, I guess.
Definitely.
Like that's me every day.
Yeah.
But I think what's important that you said, or what you did, going back, what was that, 5 years ago, you were like, I think it's important to be a part of the dialogue. You put your installation out there, you put your best foot forward, you showed your creativity, and you added to the conversation of, at least in the small scale, the Chicago art world, but also in the bigger world, because everybody got to see that. Even though, it's here in Chicago, but I feel like there's a lot of national eyes too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing, adding to the dialogue. And I think that's an important thing for these expos. So after that, you did that. What was the next thing that you felt like was a good challenge for you in your work?
I think, trying to figure out like where I would have my studio. I think something like as simple as that, because I did undergrad, grad, the residency, and then I was like, oh, now I have to figure out where I'm going to have my studio, and what the sort of like day-to-day of like navigating the studio, and then also having all these jobs, to pay for my work, and how to manage my time outside of school. I think that was like what was next on my plate. And so I found a studio that was here in Pilsen that was shared with some other artists that I met like through friends. And it was on Cermak and Halstead. It's where Rooms for Kids is. So I was sharing a studio with Josué Pello. I don't know if you know him. He's like artist fabricator. It was me, him, and then another person. Basically, like I was a Mexican with like a bunch of Puerto Rican artists.
Yeah.
So it was like a really supportive, I think, like transition, to be in, because there was a lot of like guidance too from being in that space, and like learning by seeing other artists have a career as like a studio artist full time. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of how I started to like imagine myself also doing it full time. Because at the time I was, teaching. I was teaching for nonprofits, like after school art classes. Then I taught at a museum, and then I taught for I worked for the city of Chicago and like the arts and culture unit. So I was having all these other jobs that I really did enjoy and were creative, but were definitely taken away from my practice, my studio practice. And I was like starting to feel kind of, conflicted, right? About like where I wanted to spend my energy the most. Yeah. But I feel like seeing other artists do it full time kind of like planted that seed that I could do it too eventually.
How does an installation artist, I hate this question because people ask me. So, but let me reword it.
Please.
Is it difficult for installation artists to create product to be consumed monetarily?
Interesting. I feel like all art is a product at the end of the day and is consumed, you know, even if it's video, like new media work. I guess the way that it naturally happened for me is that because I am so multidisciplinary, like I'm doing painting and sculpture, like ceramics or like other like non-traditional material. And then I'm putting all these objects into an installation. Like, you know, before I begin making any of the pieces, like I'm drawing the installation. And so I'm thinking about it as a whole, but then I make all these different elements that then, you know, can be collected, I guess, in a way. And I think that I wasn't doing that like strategically. It just happened that way because of like my interest in all these other mediums. And I definitely like a couple times like in school would get like pushback from like maybe focusing on one medium. But I actually think that that's like what has helped me is to like be so open to all the different mediums. And that kind of, you know, also helps for people to be able to collect my work rather than just an installation that no one can really collect. The way that, you know, I make income is from my labor of like putting the installation together. So I charge an artist fee for my time to do it.
That's so dope because like for me, I talk to so many different artists, you know, and I think an important thing that we always bring up is, all right, how do we pay our bills? You know, how do we live off what we love to do? And I think that's dope that you mentioned that, like your labor, you know what I mean, or what you invest, what you add to the world, basically, like that is your product. And you said you have byproducts of that process.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's dope to like, you know, I feel like there's a lot of creators that maybe don't even like think like that. You know?
And I think it took me a while to get there. And I will say, like, I have a mentor who like, you know, is and was part of the art world. And they have also really helped me to kind of see like some of that labor as being, you know, like unpaid labor and how that's wrong. And you should be paid for the labor and time that you're doing. And I think what happens is like we get so used to doing a lot of unpaid labor naturally that, you just, you know, maybe start thinking that it's like, okay, or part of like being an artist. And then eventually, you know,
or you think that finished product is what you are allowed to have an exchange.
Right. But it's not like, all the other crazy amount of hours that you put into getting there. And so like now I'm thinking about like all the other steps that it took for me to get to here. I should also be paid for, especially if an institution is benefiting from having my work 100%. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. That opens up so many more like topics. You know, for like me as a muralist, I don't do these as much, but I know there's a lot where it's like submit a design, submit a sketch for like a mural project. And you're like, yo, that's already work. Like you should be paying me for that time to create something. And then also, like you said, like these institutions or organizations, whatever it might be, that are benefiting off of your work being there, you know, like and it's not,
I was just saying, like the crazy part is that once you start asking for these things, they start to have the funds for it. But like, if you're naive to it, then they also benefit from you being naive to it. Which I think is also upsetting when I started to kind of realize that.
Or you just being willing to like do whatever. Like, oh, okay, it don't work that way? Oh, okay, my fault. Like, I got to work how you want it to work. Yeah. Sometimes we forget we are the professionals that kind of dictate the standards.
Exactly.
All right.
Get my money right.
Exactly. I think it's time for some wine. What do you think?
I think so too.
You said it like
How important was it you finding a mentor or you having one?
Super important. But, they found me just like through, mutual people. And actually, I should have mentioned, like, she found me from having my studio there, like with the other artists. She was a friend of his, and she came, to the studio and saw my work. And then eventually, like, I saw her again, I think, like, out eating somewhere in Pilsen, and was like, oh, I saw your work, like, we should connect. And then it naturally just happened that way. But she was basically had a similar experience, but more in like the maybe like art advising part of it, like more the business side of art, and she was like doing a lot of things for the first time in her family in this similar way that I am. And like, Latinx, and her family not understanding necessarily like what having a career in this is like. And so I feel like that's why it's really helpful, like to have her, because she understands not just the art world, but also like what I'm dealing with culturally and like
As a person.
Yeah, exactly. As a human. Yeah.
Did you know you needed a mentor?
I didn't. I didn't know that I needed a mentor. Yeah, I didn't. Thank you.
Our finest white wine.
I actually don't really drink wine, but I like beer more. No, but wine is good. I'm not
have beer,
complaining.
we have tequila.
No, I'm not complaining.
And
I'll
we
drink
have,
this.
E&J. I'll just give you the bottle. Thanks, bro. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I don't even drink beer. I only drink wine.
I think when
And
you
tequila.
drink wine.
Connoisseur.
Yeah.
Connoisseur.
You want some, Zach?
Nah, we good.
You didn't even ask Zach, dude.
That's all right.
All right. Let's let this ambulance pass and then we'll get back to it.
It's so annoying because I swear every time we record, it's like the most amount
All
of
of a
noises.
sudden something, yeah.
All the time.
Literally right outside.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah. It's really
California wine
It's really good.
for the south of France. All right, we ready to get back into it? Now that we wet our whistle, take 2. All right. So back to being a mentee. How is that process?
It's good.
Is it formal or very informal?
No, it's very informal. Yeah. It's very informal, and it just happened naturally, and the relationship is like really organic.
Yeah.
They feel like a friend, a sister.
Do you pay them?
I don't pay them. No.
Like I've heard of like people that
Oh,
pay
paid
for like their
mentorships.
consulting and stuff.
Yeah. Then that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, like
I-
you meet up once a week and I don't know.
I think it's more, their decision not to do that, and more about like offering their guidance to somebody in the way that, they wish they would have had from someone else, which they also have a mentor.
So they have a mentor.
They
too.
also have a
I'm trying
mentor.
to look for a mentor right now. Do you have do you do counseling or like therapy?
Do I do therapy? Yeah, I do therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks? Every 2 weeks. Okay.
Do you do
What-
therapy?
No, I don't. I don't have no counseling, no
Oh,
therapy.
okay.
I have no mentors. I'm just out here willy nilly.
Alone.
Yeah, it's alone.
Raw.
Like,
Just raw.
just out here raw dog in the air. So would you ever take on a mentee?
I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely
Are you right
would.
now or no?
Not right now.
How do you find a mentee? How do you
I
become
don't
a mentor?
know. I think maybe from my experience of having it happen like organically,
Yeah.
I also assume it'll happen that way for me
Organically.
too. Yeah. That it'll be like somebody that I meet. Maybe it's one of my students. Maybe it's that
I've
way.
I've heard that you recently started a new job.
I did. How do you know?
I have my ear to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about this new job of yours.
Yeah, so I guess it's a new job, but I see it as like an extension of what I do, which is like being an artist and then teaching, being an educator also. I took a break for a while from doing that, and COVID happened, so
Yeah.
I definitely
COVID
wasn't doing any
Is
teaching.
happening.
COVID is happening, right?
Zach,
So, but I'm teaching right now a ceramics course.
So you teach ceramics?
I'm teaching a ceramics course right now
Oh, is that right?
at the School of Art
At the
Institute of
School of Art
Chicago.
Institute.
Wow.
Can I sign up to just take one class?
Definitely not. No, you can. You can.
Well, I'm already in a ceramics class, so.
I know. I heard.
Oh, you heard?
Yeah, I heard.
Oh, there's like a little
my ear
gossip
to
with
the ground.
ceramics. Yeah. No, shout out to what's her name? Frenchie.
Who's that?
My instructor.
Oh,
She
I
okay.
graduated
do
from
independent
SAIC,
study.
right?
Huh?
I think she graduated from SAIC.
I don't know.
That-
I do
her
an
name is
independent
Frenchie?
study. Her name is Frenchie. But I haven't had no time to go. I've only went once.
Yeah, and that's
But
the
I'm learning
thing.
casting.
Ooh, okay, cool.
You don't know. Now,
I
you
do
about
know.
that?
I'm a
You know about
professor.
casting?
Yeah, I
Well,
do.
what do you teach?
I teach ceramics, but
Like
it's
free- like
ceramic
freeform?
sculpture. Yeah,
Sculpture.
so it's a lot of hand building, slab building, coiling, applique.
Appliques.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your do you have a favorite medium right now? And if you do, what is it?
I think right now it's painting,
Interesting. But you teach ceramics.
but I teach ceramics.
You think it helps like your brain like to be able to balance?
I think so. Yeah. And the reason why I would say like ceramics is not, my main medium right now is because it's very dependent on having access to a kiln. I don't have a kiln in my studio. My studio is set up for painting, sculptural work. So if I do get to that place, then, maybe my answer would have been ceramics. I've done ceramics by like
That makes sense.
Yeah.
doing residencies or, going to like other studios and doing it that way. But right now it's painting because I think that I'm really excited about doing painting again. Like I went to undergrad for painting, but it was oil painting and it felt very like limiting at times and not really my thing. And then now the way that I'm painting makes me feel more like free and excited about
Yeah.
painting.
Huh. Why is that?
Because I'm using non-traditional materials.
You talking about
And-
the piping?
Yeah, the piping, like I don't have to recreate a master
Yeah.
white male painter.
Huh. I like that.
Yeah.
How did you start piping? I
Actu-
know you probably get asked all the time, but I have to ask.
I started piping in undergrad. So it was probably like I was a senior, I think.
in
And I was
undergrad.
and I was making like these large sculptural forms with paint, and then I started using like real frosting on them. And I had to throw away all of them.
After a week or so.
No, after like 2 years, they were like sitting in my parents' garage, and
Yeah.
I kept getting like called by my dad.
Were you ever into bakery?
I wasn't, and I actually don't
Okay.
like cakes.
You don't even like cake.
No.
I don't like cake either.
What? Really?
The irony, yeah.
Well, we'll talk after this, but I got
I'm
some
an ice
cakes.
cake guy. Ice cream cake combo?
Yeah, I'm more like for ice cream. Yeah.
Talking about like Baskin Robbins or something.
No, I'm talking about swirl.
Oh.
Oh, like,
Soft serve.
oh.
But it's like
I was talking
birthday
more like
cake?
Baskin Robbins. Yeah.
Like birthday cake
I
ice
could
cream?
do that.
Soft serve. That's interesting. That's interesting.
I'm so confused.
I forgot what
Cheers.
I was doing. Cheers again. Cheers again. Cheers again. Cheers again. Let's start over from the top. Take 3. Here we go. Ready? All right. So you started piping in undergrad, and then now you're doing installations. And where's your studio at now? Who's laughing?
Why is it funny?
I don't know. You're like kind of laughing. So it makes me
I'm
laugh.
not. You're laughing, so that's why I'm laughing.
Okay. So tell us about your studio practice now. You're in a very nice studio.
Yeah. Wait, I wasn't sure. I'm supposed to start. Hold on. Okay. Ask me again. Okay.
So tell us about your studio practice now. And where is your studio?
Yeah. My studio now is at Mana. So it's here in Pilsen, like on Cermak and Troop.
You like it?
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What's your beef with the Chicago art world?
What's my beef with the Chicago art world? I have a lot of beefs with it, or beef, as in plural, beef. I would say definitely like representation is still not a thing within like larger institutions, which is definitely an issue for me.
What's the largest institution in the Chicago art world?
In the Chicago art world, I mean, there's a couple. There's like the Art Institute, the MCA. I would say like maybe those are like the top institutions. Interesting. I just think that institutions overall have a lot of work to do still.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think? My last guest basically just shitted on my whole career and said that,
why are you bringing that onto me?
Shout out to David Ha. I love David Ha. No, he didn't say it about me, but he was talking about how artists feel like they're in a box and they're not pushing themselves.
Yeah.
What do you feel that looks like for you to like, do you feel like you're able to push yourself to the next level? And what do you think that looks like for you?
Yeah, I definitely think that I can, but it can be limited based off funding, right? So like when I have a grant, I can really push myself. Right. When I get a mural like installation commission, I can really push myself. I think that's...
Have you done murals?
I'm going to this summer. Yeah.
Ooh. If you need
it's
an
secret.
Assistant, hit me up.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I will.
I'm looking for assistant jobs.
Cool. I will. But I think that,
but I'm down to help if you need help.
Cool. Okay, for sure. I think that it's really dependent on budget, like having that capital to do it. Like, man, if we had a lot of money, we'd be doing a lot of cool things all the time. I think that's really the reality of it. I mean, you can work and like perfect, your art and your work, your labor, like whatever it is that you're interested in, you can perfect that in your studio. But if you're trying to sort of like expand outside of what is possible in your studio, you need funds to do that. That's the reality.
That's 100% the reality.
Yeah.
So when I asked you about like establishments in the Chicago art world, you didn't mention the Mexican Museum. Why is that?
I used to work there. Yeah. But I
just saw that they received an $8 million grant.
I saw that by, I think, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife.
No way.
Yeah.
What? That was that?
Yeah, he's Amazon, right?
Bezos' ex-wife.
Yeah, that's his ex-wife.
Wow.
Which is interesting and probably why she's not married to him anymore. Because he has not given a lot of money to nonprofits. No.
That's interesting. I wonder what her tie is into Chicago.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I think that she gave money to a lot of different nonprofits. So I'm happy that she chose like the museum as one.
She took his bread
and spread it.
Up. Well, it is her bread too.
Yeah, it was her bread too. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So you used to work there?
Yeah, I used to work there. Yeah, I worked there for... Yeah, it was good.
I'm trying to get you in trouble.
You sure?
It was good, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Well, I guess the only reason I bring that up is because I think like, all right.
A little instigator.
I know. I tend to think like our heads are always thinking about institutions that we feel like maybe don't embrace us.
For sure.
But what about the institutions that do embrace us?
Maybe they don't embrace us.
What do you mean by us? I mean, in general.
I think, institutions can or don't embrace us.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the reason is for that?
I think it's dependent on a lot of things. It could be, what the current social climate is.
When are you going to have your solo show at the museum?
Next year. No, I'm kidding. What museum?
Yeah, I was like, wow, next year.
No, that's like the museum that we're talking about.
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
That's where they drop the ball, whoever them is. I don't even know nobody over there.
You would have to ask them.
But they be dropping the ball. They got him in a check. We know you're out there. If you're listening, solo show.
Yeah.
It's like,
would you have a solo show?
I don't even know who's over. Who's even over there? Who's over there?
Who
I gotta talk to?
No, there's a lot of.
Say his name. Who was your boss when you worked there?
When I worked there, it was Antonio Pasaran, and because I was in the education department, but it's like education department, a visual arts department. So there's like separate departments who do like curation versus
they do
art
pretty
education.
good. It's been a year since they've been open, so I'm kind of being judgmental. But they typically do.
They have great exhibitions. Yeah.
Very true.
And I think, moving forward, like it's really exciting to engage contemporary Latinx artists, like in a similar way how El Museo del Barrio did, which is in New York, and I'm part of that exhibition, that it's 40 Latinx artists like nationally. Yeah. I think that's exciting too. Thinking about like local and also national, like to be in conversation with each other. Yeah. I think that's important too.
That's so true. How about galleries? Do you work with galleries out here?
I don't have like representation.
Is that by your choice? Is that by...
It's by choice right now. Yeah.
You feel like there's nothing that would be the best to represent you in the way you need it? Yeah,
I just haven't like found, I think, that gallery that I have like that connection with, Or
even be like maybe useful to you, Yeah. Like you're doing so great without that representation. Exactly. Who's gonna add to your to your work and
exactly
your career, basically.
Exactly. And then it gets complicated because then, they take 40%, you keep 60%. And then
more or less.
Yeah. And then they could have a say on like what kind of work you should be doing because it's selling more. And I just don't want any of those like limitations right now where I feel really excited about experimenting with my practice. And I don't feel like I have to abide by like any rules of what kind of art I should make or what's sellable or not.
I think artists fall into that all the time.
For sure, yeah. And I'm not...
what's acceptable, what's sellable, what's... all that stuff. Like what would people want, you know? And
I'm not hating on artists who do that either,
Or galleries,
because it's a choice. And maybe eventually I will make that choice and it will work for me. But I feel like when you make that choice, I don't know, it has to be like, it's an important decision that I feel like I'm not ready to make right now.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't need to and it doesn't feel right, then what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So we're getting ready to wrap this up. Is there
are?
Yeah, so I don't want to take too much. 6:44.
Oh, really?
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy. Time went by really fast.
I know. It's already almost 7.
When you're having fun.
So, I guess just want to leave it. We talked about you having mentorship and you being a teacher. How do you feel that translate into you as an individual, but also you as a person in your community or our community?
I think that, it gives me like insight to a lot of spaces that maybe I didn't think I would be a part of. It makes me feel really excited to share that with my students. Yeah. And when I get the chance to have other students of color that probably, feel like they haven't, seen a professor that is like a woman of color, identifies that way, and feel like comfort in asking questions about having a career in the arts. So I feel like those are moments that are like where all those things come together and are really exciting for me. Because I wish that I would have seen myself as a young person in that way.
Did you not see that in
Definitely
undergrad
not.
and grad school?
No.
That's interesting.
Maybe in grad school a little bit, but not in undergrad, no.
That's interesting.
Or high school. Yeah.
It's dope that you're in that position now.
Yeah. I feel very privileged.
I think that's something that I take too. Like, I don't feel like I have this crazy big platform, but I know I have to have some self-awareness of like, you know what? I am kind of an artist that's doing a lot in the community or in the culture or just in the industry, the street art industry for me. Yeah. And I have to understand like what my role is, That's partially why I wanted to do this, connect with other creatives who feel like I'm like leading that discussion or adding to that dialogue of our creative culture. Like, how can we share this with the next, or even, it don't even have to be young. They could be older than us, but they might feel disconnected from
Exactly.
like what's going on, and just to have these talks to be able to kind of share where you're at, where I'm at, and kind of like where we feel like, because sometimes, we hold a lot, like we might think like, oh, everything's cool, but we might have a lot of like discretion towards certain things too, that we don't get to talk about.
Definitely. Yeah.
And social media only lets us share so much,
And the positive.
Yeah. And then, as artists, we're visual artists. We're not, on the mic every day. Sometimes we just like to be, introverts.
Exactly.
And just create. And then when we have opportunities like this to kind of share our heart,
Definitely. Yeah. And you never know, who you will or can impact.
Mm-hmm. So true.
So it's really important. Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm excited to, see, put this episode out, and hopefully people respond to it. People respond to you, and just to be able to kind of like resonate with the conversation. And, I think it'd be cool also too, if you find a mentee, because I think that's the only way that we continue to build our community and culture.
Exactly.
But you're already doing that through teaching and everything.
Yeah. And you too.
Man, I just be out here trying to tell these kids, like, bro, I don't know. I try to give my advice as best I can,
Yeah. But it definitely is impactful. Even I think if you don't think that it is, it most likely is.
Yeah, we got to have that self-awareness, you know? Like, at the end of the day, people are looking to us.
Exactly.
Any last words, Zach?
Oh, man. Nothing.
So quiet. You're so quiet this interview, man.
Are you usually not
very
quiet?
concise. No, it depends. You're just very concise with your words. So I'm like, I'm just taking in everything. I'm like, okay. But I definitely got a lot of questions, as always. But
So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the wine.
Oh, we got a whole bottle, so.
Okay, well, I'm going to drink all of it.